Hello again, everybody. Today we're going to talk about the presidency of George Herbert Walker Bush. And more specifically, we're going to talk about his role in the fall of the Berlin Wall. But before we do that, I think it's important to remind ourselves that the presidency of George Bush, even though it was only 4 years, it is still extremely significant. And historians have pointed to the fact that he was kind of the glue, the bridging of the gap, if you will, from the 80s and into the 90s. And what I mean by that is this. Republicans love to look at Ronald Reagan and talk about, wow, what a success Ronald Reagan was. And on the same page, Democrats like to look at Bill Clinton and say, wow, what a success Bill Clinton was. But if you remove the leadership of George Herbert Walker Bush between the two men, neither one of them would be remembered in the way that they are. And one of those factors that we'll talk about today is how Bush solidified the Reagan legacy of the Cold War victor. Because in 1989, George H.W. Bush had just become president of the United States of America in January. That November, a monumental event will happen that'll bring the world to the edge of the end of the Cold War. And it'll be Bush's response to that event that not only keeps the peace in the world, but helps bring the world eventually out of the Cold War. In November of 1989, the communist world saw the writing on the wall. They knew that communism was not working anymore. So East Germany decided to open up a little bit of travel between East and West Germany. They were going to allow some of the people behind the Iron Curtain who lived behind the Berlin Wall. They were going to allow certain people to cross through the Berlin Wall and visit West Berlin and things like that. But during the press conference announcing this limited opening of the Berlin Wall, things got a little confused. The people listening to the press conference got confused, and everybody thought that the Berlin Wall was now open. So on both sides, East and West Germany, millions of people descend upon the Berlin Wall and start demanding to cross through to see family members that they hadn't seen since 1961 when the Berlin Wall was put up. So phone calls go back to Moscow, to the leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, and like, what do we do? Like, do we do the normal communist thing and just start shooting everybody to restore order? Because people are starting to tear this wall down, just like Reagan had told him to do in 1987. And Gorbachev kind of sighs and goes, no, the world's changing. Let's open the wall. So slowly people start descending up on the wall with hammers and axes, and they're tearing it down. They're climbing on the wall, and for some reason everybody's listening to David Hasselhoff. And George H.W. Bush, back in the White House, perfectly, as the master of foreign policy, plays this situation for the United States of America. At a time period when everybody expected America to run up and down the street and wave the red, white, and blue and declare victory in the Cold War because that awful scar upon humanity, the Berlin Wall, was falling, Bush just simply sits back in the White House. He's like, well, it's a pretty good thing. And the reporters are like, Mr. President, aren't you excited about the Berlin Wall falling? We've been wanting this for, generation. And he goes, well, it's a good deal. We're very happy, but we don't want to get too excited. And Bush showed the world restraint. Now, this was on purpose. Bush knew that Mikhail Gorbachev's position in the communist world was getting a little rocky. Bush also knew that if the president of the United States of America, who was busting with excitement and pride on the inside, gets up and starts dancing on the Berlin Wall and declaring victory and saying, in your face, Soviet Union, that there could be a backlash in the communist world that would have led to a brutal crackdown upon the people of Berlin, much like the communists have been doing for the past 50 years. So, George H.W. Bush's restrained response to the public was all part of his master plan. He was working the phones behind the scenes, talking to Mikhail Gorbachev, talking to the leaders of East Germany and West Germany, and basically ensuring that the world would come peacefully out of this situation. So historians have given George H.W. Bush 2 thumbs up for the way he handled the fall of the Berlin Wall. Next time that we have a little lecture together, we're going to talk about another monumental event of the short Bush presidency, and that, of course, is the Persian Gulf War, the first large-scale war that America will be involved in since Vietnam. So have a great day, my fellow Americans.